Okay, I am very pleased, thank you, Haywood. I'm very pleased to bring Jeff Traska, my good friend, and somehow, in some universe, like I remember talking to him, and for 3 hours on the way home, I'm like, I found this person who thinks just like me, but smarter. So with that, I will leave you. Jeff runs the Wisconsin Black Bear Education Center in Wausau, Wisconsin. I think he is very valuable because Jeff used to be a trophy hunter and is now reformed. So I think he can offer us an insight into some of that thinking and evolving of that thinking towards wildlife. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Kind of hard to follow Haywood there. I am not a speaker type person. I speak as I see it. My background is I'm a contractor by trade. I fell in love with bears probably 30 years ago, and I'm just explaining what I've learned over the past 30 years with bears. And since that time, I've created the Wisconsin Black Bear Educational Center. This is a place that people can visit us from all over the world, and they get to see bears doing what they do naturally. It's not a zoo environment, it's an environment built for the animals, exactly what they need, but a smaller area. I guess my background comes from the first time that I've ever seen a bear. I was bow hunting in the early 80s, and I got to see a black bear running through the oaks in a nice October evening, snow falling down a little bit, and at that time, you didn't even need a license to shoot a bear. All you needed was your bow license. I watched this bear come within 15 feet of me, ran past her underneath my tree stand, and ran away, and I was so overwhelmed by it that I actually jumped out of my tree stand and ran after it. I was just thrilled. It ran off into the distance, and the next weekend I went back to the same spot, and I actually got to see 5 bear in the same spot, and I ended up shooting one. And after that, I spent some time doing hunting and different things, but what always was overwhelming to me is what I'm taking my ride home in my truck after observing what I've seen that night by hunting and stuff, and I just kept re-seeing all these bears again and again, and it was just thrilling to me, to the point where after about 4 or 5 years, I put my bow and arrow down, and basically I went back and went out into the woods and just waited for these animals. I got to learn more and more what they're looking for, and I just put myself in those positions. And I found over the years that, these animals aren't like a monster coming through the woods with blood dripping out of its mouth waiting to eat you. That's not what they're about. I guess the way I explain it to people, a black bear is no different than a couple 100-pound gray squirrel. That's really all it is. So, but nevertheless, I worked on some of my own studies, creating my own camera equipment and things like that, different than what it is nowadays. I mean, there's remote cameras and stuff that you can buy. I had a company that I worked with, and I would set up these cameras to get pictures of black bears doing what they do in the wild, and it helped me understand a lot more. But over the years, I had opportunities to work on projects throughout North America. I was able to work with the late Ray Anderson for the University of Stevens Point. Learned a lot of things from him. Actually, the first time I went to go visit him, he said to me that, "Oh, you're trying to do a lot of research work like biologists are doing." Well, I'm just an individual that's interested. I'm just trying to learn. And so My next direction, I went to talk to, I went to a project in Montana with Chuck Jonkel. He's from the Great Bear Foundation. They do a lot of work with grizzly bears and also polar bears. Wayne McCrory he's from the White Bear or the Spirit Bear Project in British Columbia on the Prince Royal Island. Wayne is probably known for, he's set more land aside for just the general public than anybody else in the world. If you look up the Valhalla Society, you can find out what he's all about. That led me to have more of an understanding of what bears really need in the wild. I live on a 10-acre parcel of land that's just outside of Wausau. My own neighbors that live a half a mile down the road don't even know that I do this. So we have people that come and visit us by appointment only, and but our place is a hidden little secret for people that want to learn. I made the mistake one day of asking our DNR what it takes to get a captive animal. What does it take? And at that time, this was in the early 90s, they told me that you needed 15 square feet with a concrete floor. And I was appalled. I was like, well, do you understand what this animal needs in the wild? Well, yeah, but we're concerned about a concrete floor so he can't dig out and stuff. And my background working with wild bears, I just couldn't see how an animal could survive that. So over the next couple years, the first bear that I got, his name was Vince. And then came Sunny and Moon, who all three of these bears were rescued from breeders. Like puppy mills, the same thing happens with wild animals, and it's sad because these animals are confined to very, very small conditions. They're in environments that they basically give up on their life because they can't use any of their natural abilities. There's nothing there for them. And I guess my background was, I was telling myself, I think I can do much better than what the animal would have if it would end up in a small zoo. So I started thinking like the bears and basically started developing what is called one of the largest and most natural black bear facilities in the U.S. And our area consists of ponds, trees, waterfalls, fish in the pond, big wide open meadows, big trees for shade area. One of the things that people really don't understand is that black bears need the ground or the water to keep themselves cool because they don't have sweat glands. So they have to keep themselves cool somehow. And providing a certain amount of shade and the grassy areas are very important. The tree cover, and also in our area we have a lot of big oak trees, so the nuts from the acorns are very important for the bears also. We give them a lot of exploring type areas so that they can look for possible denning areas. All the different vegetation that's out throughout the woods is, I believe that bears are very much like neighbors herbalists. They need different plant types to keep themselves healthy, so you have to provide a lot of different things for them. The grasses, the different berries, the bears can roam 7 acres of our enclosure daily, and they can look for the things that they need. We have wetlands so that in the spring of the year, where these greening areas are, they have vegetation right away when they come out of hibernation. Also along the low-lying water areas, there's a lot of plant life that starts there first thing in the spring. Big canopied wooded areas for bigger trees. They have denning opportunities. Our bears den for 5 months out of the year. They don't eat, they don't drink, they don't go to the bathroom for all that time. And they go in, and when they come out, it's like nothing has ever happened. They come out, they stretch, and start it all over again. The main thing is you have to give these animals the opportunity that they have built in them. That's the most critical thing. Creating different denning areas, different rotten stumps, logs, things like that. It's not necessarily that the animals can use everything that's there. We have to bring in things at times. We even have a bridge that goes over the road. It's the only bear bridge in North America that I know of. There's hazelnuts in the area, probably one of the biggest weight-gaining foods that bears can eat. Acorns, of course. Different types of, this is a buckthorn cherry. There's a lot. They say that's very evasive to people. Bears eat them. It passes through them. They reseed it. It's there again next year for them. The bears can determine the difference between the ripe and unripe berries very simply by their smell. They're not seeing the dark ones, which are actually the ripe berries, but they can smell the difference between the ripe and unripe berries. So they can utilize that day after day, and the food source is there for them. Blueberries, probably one of my favorites, and the bears consume a lot of them also. Different types of raspberries, even the different vegetation as far as plant type, as far as flowers and stuff, you actually get to see the bears determining different plant types that they like at different times of the year. And it's not just a place that you go and you can see one of these animals, but you can see them doing these natural things. That's what makes it very interesting. I'm going to skip through a bunch of them here, just go through quickly, and anybody can come up to me and talk to me later on about this, but providing areas where we can hide food. We supplement probably 50% of the bear's diet. They get all natural foods. They get nuts, berries, vegetables, fruits. They do get some fish and chicken, but the food isn't put out there in 5-gallon buckets or anything. It's spread out throughout. It's hidden hollow logs so that they have to search for it every day, so they don't get bored with their environment. Here they are looking for some goodies and some hollow logs. They spend time digging in these logs that we bring in there that are rotten and stuff, that they actually dig in for grubs and different larvae. They even get into the ground nest or ground wasp nest, and also bee nest for the larvae that's in them. They do get into mice that burrow under the ground. I see them eat those. And a lot of grazing. The open meadow areas are just one of the most important things that I can provide for them. You see them foraging daily, and also they're so smart that a bear can do 3 things at one time. Number 1, it's laying down, keeping itself cool. Number 2, it's eating, and number 3, it's saving energy by doing those 3 things. So they're very smart. They have a lot of trees to climb. different log structures. You can see the debris from them digging into the rotten logs. They rest, they play, they do scent marking just like they do in the wild. You see the markings throughout. Daily, we make sure of their bear scats, or we look at the scats to determine if they're eating too much fruit versus not enough, and we can adjust their food accordingly. Again, our area is very vast. We have about 3 different ponds on the site. Bears spend a lot of time in the water. They enjoy swimming, playing with one another. We spend time in the winter collecting old wood. People see me coming down the road with all this old wood in my truck, and they're like, "Wow, that Traska is really hard up for firewood." Well, it has nothing to do with about my business. It's all about the bears. But we're looking for uprooted trees and stuff like that. That load probably wasn't legal, but we build denning areas and stuff throughout. And the bears actually, they decide. We create areas, they decide where they're going to stay. And they end up early October or so, start raking in leaves to make a big nest for their winter hibernation. You can go on our website and actually see one of our bears making a den. You just click on Moon making his winter den, and you can watch him make his den. Again, our bears are very happy. They rest. They make their winter dens. We monitor time of the year when they come out. And we have groups that visit us from all over the world. These people are from South America. We get everything from Boy Scouts to Girl Scouts to kindergartners to nursing home people and everybody in between. So I guess our job is just to help people understand what bears are all about, and so people can not have the fear that they've had put into them over the years that animals are very dangerous, or bears are very dangerous anyway. But and also we talk about different hunting, camping safety tips. We have about 75 educational towers throughout. People can get facts from them. There's just a tremendous amount to learn there. So it's hard to put this all down into a little 20-minute presentation, but I'm hoping that I get some good questions. Questions are the easiest thing for me to deal with, and that's my presentation.
Jeff, really quick before I go to the first question, can you just talk about what you've seen over time as far as like Wisconsin DNR black bear policy and the questions you're asked as far as like what we're doing with our black bears in the wild? Well,
one of the things that I was very involved with the rewriting of the captive animal laws. Before I had done what I did as far as making an open top enclosure, that's basically, we have a lot of electric wire and stuff that we use there. Nobody had done that. So I worked with them as far as trying to come up with new ideas and stuff, but the problem that everybody else that had these animals came up with was that anything that they'd have to do was going to cost them money, and I'm not in this for the money. Again, what we've built here is all come out of my pocket. I get donations from people that come and visit, but I think my biggest donation I've gotten was like $350. All of this is my dime. I do this not for money, I do it to help people understand. And when you take the dollar sign out of it, I think a lot of ethics are saved because of that. And that's just who I am. So, but the DNR has written new rules and regulations. They wanted to have a minimum of 1,200 square feet for the animals to have with an open top enclosure, so that's about half the size of this room. When it all got said and done, there was so much backlash from people having to spend money on doing this that it ended up being 400 square feet. So it went from 200 square feet to 400 square feet. And at the end of that, they basically said, well, we're going to tell you there's not going to be anybody here to enforce the law. They came to my place after me calling my representative. I'm saying I want to see all these places inspected twice a year. That's what I'd like to see. I made enough noise that they came to my place in the middle of winter and came with their inspection sheet and checked it all off. Never got to see a bear. They were all in hibernation and just checked out their thing. That was 2005. Haven't been back since. So it's just, it's very sad. It is. But I welcome them any day. I have nothing to hide. Actually, the USDA right now is doing a inspection on our place, and I've got nothing to hide. It's just I would like to see all the places that are out there inspected so that these animals aren't living in just terrible, terrible conditions, you know. So I guess with that, if there are other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Can I ask you?
I do have some brochures out here and out in the front there also.
Can I ask you a question regarding your comment about bears not having sweat glands?
Yes.
And that made me think about some of the things that we've touched the last 2 days has been on hound hunting,
Right.
training dogs on bears. So I know I've seen quite a few social media comments amongst each other about they had their dogs on a bear for 6 to 8 hours, chasing that bear. So what happens to bears? There's 12,700 dogs out during training for 2 months. Yeah. And so what happens to those bears? Are they really truly jeopardized in terms of, you know, the stress? What does that do to them?
Well, I think bears will get to the point, I've actually seen this by transporting a bear, where if they get overly excited and they can't keep themselves cool enough, they'll actually have seizures. And in these situations where they're running bears, it's not so much even running the bears. They have where they train the bears, and they put them in cages, and they run their dogs up to these cages. These bears can be in those cages for up to 16 hours. And I've talked to these people, tried to reason with these people like Hayward was expressing, and they said, well, we put a can in the corner, but they just tip it over. The bears tip it over. And I'm like, did you ever think about cutting a hole in the outside and putting the water on the outside so they could lick into it? That ain't gonna work. But their dog, if their dog came to the truck after running a bear and was really thirsty, they would give it water, you know. So there's a lot of situations out there.
The DNR has orchestrated hunts every year, and they did these extra tests that showed that the population of bears was actually like much larger
Yeah.
than they thought.
Right.
So they've killed about over 19,000 bears in the last 4 years over dogs and bait since April.
Mm-hmm.
And they're planning on killing another 4,750 bears. And at least more than half of them are less than 2 years old. So they don't even reproduce by then. So what can we do to raise awareness? And aren't they just like decimating the population the same as bears do?
Well, there's the facts and then there's reality. I I guess. And right now, we're not dealing with the facts. And we need to get information to the people, or I hate to say, get into the pockets of the proper people to get the proper information to them. But I really do feel that the one key thing is getting information to the general public. The general public needs to be involved with the decisions, really, really do. And I just think that that's the part that the voice of the people has to speak. I really believe that. And I mean, what they've done so far here, from what I've seen, is just, it's amazing getting the amount of people together and speaking on both halves. I mean, the people that are for the animals or against them. I just think that it's really important to get these people together, because everybody's here just grabbing for information. They want to know more things, and hopefully next year at this time, we can be a little stronger.
All right.
That's all we can do.
All right, well, with that, I just want to thank Jeff for coming. If we could give him a round of applause. And like I said, his brochures are here, and Jeff will talk to you till nighttime. If you, but you can just make an appointment to go visit his facility. It's by appointment only, and you'll be here for a while. So if anyone has any more questions, I know I find bears fascinating. So